Hey everybody, it's Matt Feury here at NAB 2024, and you never know who you're going to run into at NAB. For example, editors Kevin Tent and Joe Walker are here. I don't know why they're here, but we're going to find out. Gentlemen, what brings you to NAB 2024?
Well, I'll answer.
Yeah.
This is going so smoothly already.
Well, we just had the greatest conversation, Joe and I, sponsored by ACE and with the help of NAB, about his career and about how he started out and everything like that. And it was great.
I showed clips and stuff.
Showed clips.
And we took questions and we, talked to people.
We had a beer.
We had a beer.
Well, let's go back to the clips, because that's an interesting part of this, and that encapsulating a career like Joe's in the span of 2 hours with all those clips, I don't know if it was something you took on yourself, Kevin, or Joe, you offered them up, but how do you choose which scenes from your illustrious catalog to showcase at an event like this?
I don't know. I kind of feel like I need to sometimes show some new things and some old things that, I don't take it for granted that people are going to have seen the films I've cut. And, I try and take things that are going to exemplify something, today I was showing clips talking about hard cuts, for example, and I put a little...
And sound.
Sound, sudden... I was trying to get onto the subject of how do you manage an audience's, how do you surprise them in a long movie and keep them on their toes? And that's what drove my choices.
Yeah. And then coincidentally, I had... I don't go on Twitter a lot, but I did go on Twitter, and I don't know if I was just thinking about you and thinking about your films, but one of those things that came up on Twitter were like, have you seen this movie lately, or something like that, and it was Sakara, and it was that scene that we showed, and I actually asked Joe if we could show that scene, or I suggested,
the bridge scene from
bridge
Sakara,
scene, yeah, which is just such an intense scene and so well done, and so, but that was just a fluke, like, how those, AI works or whatever, that you think something and all of a sudden it shows up on your Instagram account or something like that.
What a world.
Yeah.
Well, watching you two guys up there together, I mentioned this to Kevin already, I was like, wow, they really, if you look at their IMDb pages, they don't really intersect much. If you look at the work that you do, and then Kevin with Sideways and Election, Holdovers, things like that. But in the examples you were giving, Joe, I was thinking, Joe's, not much of a comedy editor. And then you talked about your background on the BBC, and also some of the examples you were showing, like how a cut can be funny, the way you make a cut funny, or the performances that Javier Bardem gave in Dune Part 2. Ever have it in the back of your mind that you want to go bigger? Like, would you ever do? Is there a Joe Walker's Election out there somewhere?
I don't know. It's funny. I mean, like Kevin, I used to teach people insist that people watch Sideways as a kind of way of learning comic timing and montage skills and things like that. And I've talked to endless people about that. And to me, it's like I've got such admiration for that world. I never stayed with comedy. It chose me rather than I chose them. Right. I kind of really love working with music as well, and I haven't been picked for much of that. I would adore cutting a musical, but anyway, but it just, I guess I'm in a good path, and I shouldn't complain about what's, what the passing traffic is on the other side.
Right. Yeah. I said to Matt, like, you are one of the funniest editors in ACE, and it's like, I was going to ask you, why haven't you done more comedies? And then you answered it that you had done a lot for the BBC.
One of the last things I did at the BBC, there was this weird moment where I felt like there's going to be yet another person coming into my cutting room and telling how to do comedy, and I always was fearful that, and all comedy films are like that, that somebody just wants to throw their jacket over your, over the table and say, now it's funny.
Oh my God.
It's such a kind of, it's a really, with drama, I always find it much more easy to articulate why something works.
Right.
You can't encompass everything, and not everything is in your remit to change anyway.
Right.
But, you can say, well, the reason why this works that way is because we're subverting that expectation, or the rhythm works, or something. Or the performance is just the perfect moment, or the reaction is great. With comedy, there's a certain alchemy, and it's funny for you, it might not be funny for the next 65 people who come in your room.
I know, that's true.
Well, Kevin, for you, is that there is an equation that There's a common saying that comedy is very hard to do. Like a lot of editors say, comedy, that's where angels fear to tread. Is it because getting a joke is almost equated with intellect? Like literally the term is, well, they got the joke. It sort of establishes like somebody has to be smart enough to understand this. Does that make it all that much? Joe just gave a great example of people coming in and going, well, now it's funny.
Right.
Mr. Payne aside, who we know is funny, is that something you run into with executives or things like that everybody thinks they're funny?
Oh, that executives think they're funny?
Well, okay, we could keep it to them, yeah.
They're hilarious. Well, the only thing I can say is that I think it's just the magic of filmmaking sometimes, where that all the right elements come together and something is just funny. I mean, I trust my instincts if I think something's funny. But, we've been to previews where we have not changed a thing in a scene or a joke, and it plays great one time, and then you play it again, and for some reason, with the chemistry of the audience or whatever, it falls flat, and it's just the weirdest thing that happens. So the answer to your question is I have no idea.
That's always a good answer. Well,
None whatsoever.
something that was really fun about this event that you just did was it was packed.
Yeah.
And the attendees, young people were, I'm going to say it, they were fawning over you. So, I mean, fawning, there was fawning going on. But that sort of speaks to paying it forward to the next generation.
Yeah.
Now, you both talked a little bit about mentoring and working with your assistants. Kevin, I know you've been with Mindy Elliott for a long time.
Yep.
What is it, you talked about this a little, but if we could just, for the people watching now, what you both try and do to foster the growth of your assistants if they have ambitions to be an editor?
I actually always, 4 or 5 times just in that hall, young people were saying, what do you advise? And I didn't come up through the Hollywood system, so probably anything like, you need to start there is useless information. I didn't do that experience. I came from music, a different background entirely, and found my own path. But I do always say that there's like 2 really good things, which is see as many films as you can, and discuss them, because even the lousy ones, you've got the objectivity that somebody like me doesn't have sitting in front of something for a year, and you could say, well, there are too many similar characters, or I would have cut that point of view out entirely. I think you didn't need the opening act, you could have come in there. And I had a long time on Sicario where I was sharing a house with Harry, my assistant, and we were just watching film after film and trying to discuss it as intelligently as we could. And I also tell people to learn how to tell stories, and to develop that muscle, and say, okay, somebody says, tell them about when that happened. See that as an opportunity to kind of like form a story and think about it later and say, did I set it up well? There are so many, especially in these days of like TikTok, there are universal storytelling things. Right. The most successful ones that keep you looking to the end can be really mundane. It's like a little trick to say, here are my 10 tips for, finances, and number 10 is the best. And you can wade through 9 really mediocre ones, right? And you might reassess that view at the end, but it's still Hook is a very huge universal story thing in a $175 million movie too. Right. We start June 1 with Chani saying, who will my next oppressor be? And then you cut to Paul. Right. And it's like it's prefacing something that's at the end of June 2. It's a hook.
Right. Yeah. Me, I just told a bunch of the people here tonight, just keep cutting stuff, and that's how it worked for me. I just kept cutting. I cut my friends' short films. I cut anything I could cut. 'Cause once I knew that's something I wanted to pursue. Yeah. And I got better. I got better at it. And then when little doors opened up, I was confident that I could walk through them, and then that would be the next stage. And then I would, eventually I wound up getting to recut a feature film, and, I was ready for it because I had been doing so many different things.
Well, listen, I know it's been a long day for both of you. We're in Vegas. You got people to see, money to lose, so I won't keep you much longer. Thank you both for doing this.
Thank you.
For you watching at home, subscribe to Avid social media channels for more content like this. Maybe Joe's top 10 financial tips for young editors. I don't know, but
He's only got 5.
Yeah, but number 6 is a doozy, so stay tuned.